Alright, so with everybody going over to sandblasting, I've helped a couple guys out already. I figured I might as well just make a quick video as to how I go about sandblasting my cars, my setup. So this is kind of what the whole thing looks like. What it is it is one of those tabletop sandblasters from Harbor Freight. I believe on the website it's the one for $129.99. Works really well. I've seen a couple guys having problems with spraying and everything, like not being strong enough. That's your air compressor size. That's your main issue. I've got a little bit of use out of it so far. Probably blasted about 20 cars. But here's kind of the setup that we got going on here. So it comes with the gun. This gray hose. This gray hose is actually the feeder hose, because down here underneath this grate is where all of your sandblast media sits, and the hose just sucks it back up. This other hose is our air hose. It does not come with this air hose. Just be forewarned about that. You got to supply your own air hoses with that. Otherwise, yeah, air hose comes with the gun. Like I said, the gun comes with a couple different nozzles. I believe the one that I went with was like the medium-sized nozzle. But we've done a few modifications to it. One thing that I highly recommend is when you get the box, there is some sealer around it that they have started to put on these things. I suggest going over it again, just to be sure. You don't want any of that stuff getting out the sides. Obviously, when you open up the door, you can see it kind of drop down a little bit. Like I said, built a custom little table for it. Fits it perfectly. Can wheel it around the garage however we need. So going over to this side of it is where we have our vacuum hose attached. It's a whole custom mount. Basically all you get, this hole is pre-drilled. It comes with a little adapter, kind of hard to see with the lighting, but so we have that running down to one of these little vortex filter things. I forgot the exact name of it. I'll put a link to what exactly I got in the comments, which runs into the bucket and then over to my very tiny shop vac, but it does the trick. Especially, it depends on what you use to as your blast media. I was using something that was a little bit more powdery to begin, and I was getting a lot of stuff into the shop vac just because it was so fine. Most of the stuff now that I blast with, which I'll show you guys in a little bit, actually does get caught up in the bucket. If it does get sucked up, very little has gone into the shop vac. I just recommend it. Keeps things a little bit more clean. Helps keep the life of your shop vac a little bit longer. Air attachment, I believe this came pre-drilled. I could be mistaken. Maybe it came up here. I don't quite remember. Like I said, a little bit of modification done to it. We have that running to an air trap or a water trap. I highly recommend getting a water trap, especially with the blast media. It can clog up the gun if you get any moisture in there, especially if you live in a humid area or really any area in general. I highly recommend it. One of the things that I did, as you can see, my feed tube actually comes out the sandblaster. Normally this hose stays the entire time inside of here. Normally the hose just runs from the gun and it drops down in this little slot, and then it sits down at the bottom. This thing's like a funnel at the very bottom, and there's like a metal part of the tube that sits down there. However, it was just kind of starting to get in my way with all the excess slack on the hose, so what we ended up doing was now it actually runs it actually runs out the back, and then out the back we brought it back in the front, and there's actually a little drain down at the bottom that we tapped into and hooked it up in there. Let me see if I can get it on video there. So like we put a little bit of a T to help with air suction, just so that way it was sucking in the correct amount of air, everything like that. We had to put this little, I forgot the exact terminology, but it kind of closes it up a little bit. Otherwise you get too much air sucking in through there. You just need to find the right amount. But yeah, it connects in there. As for the sandblasting kit, there are some plastic shields that are like plastic sheets or whatever, like windshield tear-offs almost, but for this thing. It comes with a couple extra of those. Every once in a while, I kind of getting changed up. I haven't changed it out yet. Like I said, probably blasted about 20 cars so far. As for everything else, the dust isn't all that bad. One of the features is that it does have this air little chimney that comes out the top of the back here, just to help it out with more airflow. So yeah, I highly recommend if you are looking for Sandblaster. This is a great place to start. Obviously, you don't have to get as fancy with the whole stand and everything, but I do highly recommend this vacuum setup. It keeps the dust down. It keeps it a lot cleaner. The dust that you see on the shop vac is just from other dust flying around in the garage. The air compressor that I use is a 25-gallon 6.8 CFM, which for me does the trick. On the instructions and on the website, it says you want a 9 for spraying at 90 psi. I spray at probably about 80 psi with a 6.8 at 90. So it honestly does a really good job. I'm glad that I moved away from the paint stripper. It's helped me a ton. One, it's a lot cleaner. Yeah, it costs a little bit more up front, but as for the blast media, I have my bag of it down here. I'll see if I can kind of maneuver it. It's just some black. I'll put the link to exactly what I got. I got it at Menards. I know they don't have those all around the country, but to give you guys kind of an example of what this stuff looks like, it is a very fine, almost like a powdery, but it really does the trick. If you use the medium, you get a really rough finish. But I also noticed that some of the bags are labeled. As some of it's labeled as medium and it's a little bit finer. Some of it's labeled as fine and it's a little bit more on the thicker side. I spray 164 scale cars with these things in probably about 5 minutes. 124 scale I can do in about 8 to 10 minutes. So yeah, if I can get a video sandblasting, I got actually about 10 cars I got to do. I'll get one of those as well and attach it somewhere on this video or post it as another one. But hopefully I can help out you builders out there. It's definitely helped me out. Sorry about poor camera work. If it turns out to be actually horrible, it's more informative than anything else. If you do have any other questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'll help you out as much as I can. I'm still learning. I'm still upgrading. One other thing too is make sure you got a good light source. There's no built-in lights. I know there's a Sandblaster from Tractor Supply that does have some built-in lights. Luckily enough for me, we got lights hanging in the garage, so we got that going for us. If you have any other questions, drop them in the comments. Either I can answer them, or I'm sure there's a couple other guys that run this close to the same type of setup out there, so we'd definitely be able to help out.